Welcome back, everyone, to our second conversation here on Thousand Pieces of Gold, the Q&A. Rose, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back, Michael.
We got a handful of questions here from people that participated online with us. None of them are very light. There's a lot of heavy questions here. So I'm going to throw you some hardballs here, Rose. So
we'll do what we can.
Do what you can. Thanks for being a part of this. Hopefully your mic doesn't disconnect.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right, here's one for you. We'll throw this one at you to start with. And I think this the author of this question is certainly thinking about the recent sex abuse scandals that have been coming out of the studios. What is Hollywood's deal with the treatment of women?
Well, that's the perennial question. And it is traditionally, it is the white man's world. You know, that's the studio system was all headed by white males. And the other thing is that's interesting to note is that in the 1920s and 30s, silent film and into the 30s, a lot of the writers were women, but they were gradually replaced by men writers. So I think Hollywood sees women as a risk. But you can bank on a male star. Can you bank on a woman, a female lead or female director? It's like what Nancy said the other day, is that too bad you're a woman. You know, you're a good director, but too bad you're a woman. They're trying to make a difference. I read that Universal Studios has hired more female directors and different ethnicities, more inclusivity, diversity. And Warner Brothers following right along. But remember, Hollywood is a business with profit motives. And that is the bottom. That's always the bottom line. And if they don't think that you're bankable, you're a risk. You know, that's how it goes. Or what they do now, and I think we all know this from the controversy with paying for, with releasing films online and in theaters, and Scarlett Johansson, that's who I'm thinking of, that, a lot of these stars take a cut in pay and then hope to get some of the profit from the film, depending on how much it brings in. So that's another way to cut salaries. And if the film is a risk and doesn't make it, then the stars don't get paid. And that goes for men too. I just read about Alec Baldwin this morning, how he explained what happened on the set of Rust, where the cinematographer was killed by a gun that he fired. And his pay for that film was $250,000, less $100,000 that he invested in the film. So the cash that studios are paying out, or filmmakers are paying out, is already less, because if it doesn't bring in the money, they don't get paid. That goes for men too. So, but the deal with women is that, as far as the filmmaking part of it goes, is that women are still seen as risky to the bottom line. At least that's my humble assessment.
Yeah, no, but there's a lot of evidence to prove your assessment. It's unfortunate though. Along these lines, here's a question that perhaps a bit more personal for you, Rose. But I think that your comments there is a nice segue into this. As a woman film critic yourself, how do you feel that your voice is heard or received?
Well, as a film critic in the faith community, I know who I'm writing for. So I will say that I have tried to join the LA Film Critics Circle 2 or 3 times, and I was finally told no, it's not going to happen. But I belong to the Women Film Critics Circle. I belong to a New Catholic group of film critics. And but I have to say that I'm treated very well here. I'm treated respectfully by the talent, by the directors. When we do film days and press junkets that we haven't done for 2 years, but we've done online. But I have to tell you, people are kind of delighted to see a nun and to talk to a sister, and they're very proud of the work that they do, and extremely willing to share. One recent one, I did a Zoom interview with the Eyes of Tammy Faye. You know, I'm blanking on the actress's name, and this is terrible because I love her. But just to say that I haven't felt anything but respect, and I really love it here, to tell you the truth. But
Wonderful.
some people think that, well, you know, are you just doing this to get your picture taken with a celebrity? You know, when I came here 20 years ago, I said to myself, I'm not going to chase celebrities. You either do that or you don't. And that is not my work. My work is media literacy education, and even bringing that into film reviews through a lens of Catholic social teaching. So I do what I do, and I have to tell you, I feel very blessed with many opportunities. And so is there a lot of work to do? Of course. But the thing is, your presence, right? Being present. Like when the Me Too movement broke, when we had this big meeting at one of the talent agencies, and I was the only church representative at that meeting. It was almost all women. But Anita, oh my gosh, the famous Supreme Court. Anita Hill was there. Yes, I did get my picture with Anita Hill. But just to say that it's not about the picture. It's about the witness. It's about the work. It's about being present. It's about accompaniment. It's about being on the journey together. That's what you try anyway.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that, Rose. This is a nice follow-up question to even that follow-up question. When it comes to the role of women in society, do you see the church contributing to the problem or the solution?
Both. Unfortunately, it's both. The church speaks a good line, even Pope Francis, who I dearly love, by the way. And he's trying to show some movement. And if you go to the Chancery office here in Los Angeles, you see loads of women and lay people, men and women. Yeah. So I think that some of it's not visible, what is being done. But I'm going to show you something that you may not have noticed. But here in the background, I keep Phyllis Zagano's book, Women Deacons, in English and in Spanish, as in the background, hoping to do a little product placement to keep people. No, but that's what Hollywood does all the time, is product placement.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
But I do it for a good cause anyway. No. But seriously, I think women deacons understanding what the female diaconate is a good thing, and it's not going to go away. And the Bishop's Synod coming up may help advance the cause of women, just like the Pope has made the Ministry of Catechists has made it official. So you receive that you go through a rite to be that, and that's for women and men.
Wonderful.
So
good. Well, here's hoping.
Yeah.
Shifting to
We're not going away. We're not going away.
I hope not. Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. Shifting to the film, this was a neat question. I have a strange feeling this was written by a tenured professor, but I got a kick out of this question. I'm going to paraphrase it a bit here before I get to the question. Many of the characters are in the film are running from something, are searching for something, or kind of wallowing in their own brokenness, perhaps looking for some level of reconciliation. Here's the question. Is the Western a modern day dark night of the soul?
Which Western? No, and what I mean is, like, from which
I'm assuming they're referring to the genre itself.
Well, there's the genre that went up to the 1960s about, and then there's the genre that came after, a kind of revisionist, if you will, revisionist Western, but maybe more accurate history. You take The Unforgiven, you take Dances with Wolves. Is it revisionist Western or is it revisionist history? That's what we're looking at. So I think I think certain Westerns, you could certainly, it depends on the story, doesn't it? But think of it as the dark night of the soul for Native Americans. Think of it as the dark night of the soul for Chinese immigrants who the West was built on their backs. Slavery, like the South was built by slavery. Our country wouldn't be our country today if we hadn't had the slave trade. And that's something we have to recognize. That is not just a dark night of the soul. It is a centuries long wail of pain and sorrow. So, and suffering. So I think that could be a doctoral dissertation. I mean, the answer to that. I think it's profound and it's worth delving into. I always take John Ford's 1956 film, The Searchers. I recommend it to anybody who's watching this because, you know, it came out 2 years after the Supreme Court decision, Brown versus the Board of Education, that desegregated schools. But look how long it took until the Civil Rights Act, until 1964, when President Johnson signed that. It took, and even after that, interracial marriage was still illegal in some states. So you think that film, you take it in the context of the times. And so John Wayne's niece was captured by Indians and he set off to find her, but to rescue her? No, to kill her, because by the time it got 5 years went by, as the time went by, the chances are that she married an Indian and that would defile her, right? And so there's a lot of misogyny in that film. There's racism in that film. There's westward expansion, manifest destiny, white privilege, white supremacy even. But yet there are moments in that film where John Ford, I don't even know if he did it intentionally. I don't know, but it really calls to mind the whole idea of the darkness of the American expansion West and the impact that it had on people. And of course, it was a genocide. We set out to kill their food source, especially the Plains Indians. So yeah, it's a huge dark night of the soul. If you take, unless it's the happy-go-lucky Western, I don't know,
yeah,
the entertaining Western.
Appreciate that response, Rose. Thank you. That's we are out of time, so we'll end with that question. Rose, thanks again for spending your time with us this week. And as two quick announcements, Rose, we'll be seeing you again next week, not online, but at the Anaheim Convention Center at the first Los Angeles Religious Education Congress since the pandemic started. Our center will be curating and sponsoring the film showcase, which you will be moderating. And it is co-sponsored by the CSJ Center for Reconciliation and Justice. So for those of you in the Los Angeles vicinity, please join us next Friday night at the Anaheim Convention Center. And for those of you also in LA and online, the CSJ Center's closing film, Justice Spirituality on Screen film, will be in April at the Playa Vista campus. Join us on location for the discussion and the screening, as well as online later that evening, and for the Q&A on Friday. Rose, thank you again for your time and for your very thoughtful and personal responses to these questions from our viewers.
Thank you, Michael. Always a pleasure.
All right. See you soon.